So now we can add ingredients by typing here and pressing tab, and that's cool, but we'd also like to see those ingredients on the page when we add them, and then maybe be able to edit those ingredients later down the line as well before we add the smoothie. So our ingredients are being added into this array right here. So I suppose what we could do is use v4 on an element to cycle through all of these ingredients in this array and output the ingredient for each case. Now, obviously, to begin with, the array is empty, so the v4 won't output anything. But as items are added to this array, v4 is going to cycle through those and output them to the screen. So let's do that. I'm going to go above the add ingredient div right here, and I'll do another div, and we'll attach a v4 directive to this. And this v4 is going to cycle through our ingredients. So we'll say for, and we're going to enclose this in parentheses so we can get the index as well. Ingredient and index in ingredients, and we need to data bind to our key attribute, and we'll pass through the index right here. So for each one of these, output something to the browser. Now what I'd like to do is output an input field, because if it's an input field, then the user can then edit that field later on if they wish to. If it's just text, then they can't really edit that. So first of all, let's output a label. And this label will be for ingredient. And inside here, we'll say ingredients. And then below that, we need our input field, which is of type text. It will have a name property as well of ingredient. And then we also want to bind a v-model directive to this. Now, obviously, we want to output the ingredient inside this thing, right? But what we can't do is just bind to the ingredient, because this ing thing right here, this doesn't actually exist anywhere outside of this loop. We've created it for this loop. So when we use vModel, we have to bind to data on our component, and ing doesn't exist here. So we can't data bind to ing just to output that value here. But what we can do is use the index over here and say ingredients, and then in brackets, index. Because ingredients does exist. It's down here. So we're saying, okay, we want this input to bind to the index of ingredients. So if the current index is 0, we're saying, okay, we'll bind this to the first position in ingredients. If it's 1, then it's the second position, and so forth. So we're binding to the position in the ingredients array. So that if we update this on the front end in the browser, then what's going to happen is it's going to update this thing right here, because we're bound to it via vModel. Make sense? Okay, so let's save that now and see if this works. I'm going to go to the browser and add in an ingredient, banana, and press tab. And you can see now we get this ingredient, banana. And we can change it if we want to. But for now, I'll add in another one. We'll say mango. And we'll do pear. We'll give this a title. We'll call it Morning Madness for a change. And I'm going to add this smoothie. But before I do, let's inspect the element, because we log the details to the console. So we just want to see that this works. So clear off that, add smoothie, and now we can see that we have these 3 ingredients and the title. Now, if I edit one of these, if I just change this to apple and add smoothie, we can see that now the ingredients have updated. So when we update here, it updates in the data. Therefore, when we click on the submit button or the button, then it's going to output that updated data right here. So there we go. That's how we output these different ingredients to the screen. So now we've kind of got all this sorted. What I'd like to do in the next video is see how we can take all this data that we're logged to the console and then push it to our Firestore database.